AskReddit by Santa Monsanto. Serious, what crime do you really want to see solved and justice served? Attention, serious, tag notice. Jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted. https://www.reddit.com/r/wiki/index-wiki_rule_6- closed comment parent or child. Parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules. Posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour, and posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing an AMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit. Message compose $?to =r AskReddit if you have any questions or concerns. Bardstown KY is a little town with a ton of distilleries and old people. On the surface, it's a lovely little place. Below the surface, there's been several unsolved murders. A police officer was ambushed on his way home, and the hit is said to have been done professionally. A woman named Crystal Rogers went missing. A mother and daughter were brutally murdered in their home. There's crooked cops, corruption in the city government, and the FBI is investigating cover-ups. It's all very interesting, but there aren't any clear answers. Crystal Rogers' boyfriend killed her, no question. My best friend, Sean Bach, was murdered in a hit-and-run in Albuquerque, NN just a few years ago. I want to find the post that killed him more than anything. Fuck whoever did this. I hope they never have a moment of peace. The disappearance of Timothy Pitson in Illinois, 2011. His father dropped him off at school. His mother picked him up shortly after. She took him on a road trip to his favorite places. She called family and let them know they were safe. The mother was found dead by suicide in a hotel room a couple of days later, but the child was nowhere to be found. She left a note saying that Timothy was safe and would never be found. H1203. That has to be the creepiest thing I've ever read. Like, where would he be? What him safe? Adam Walsh was a boy abducted from a Sears in Florida in 1981. They later found his decapitated head but never his body. The police had a suspect but botched the investigation. No one was ever charged. R.I.P. little guy. His dad is a great advocate for solving crimes. He hosted America's Most Wanted for many years. KK's Corner triple homicide. 3 victims shot execution style in the convenience store's cooler and amp, made to believe it was a robbery gone wrong, 1 man in prison. The sheriff at the time was corrupt along with many high-ranking officials. Sheriff's son was a well-known drug dealer and amp bragged about the crime. One of the victims was speaking out about a murder made to look like a suicide and amp. She was shot to shut her up. And if I remember correctly, the one guy in prison has been there 4 years and won't roll on the others. Makes you wonder what he knows. Might be cheating, but all 3 have to be rolled into one. John David Gorsh, https://en.m.wiki.org/wiki/disappearance_F_goes 12 Gone missing delivering the paper in Des Moines, Iowa on the 5th of September, 1982. Eugene Martin, 13. Gone missing delivering the paper in Des Moines, Iowa on the 12th of August, 1984. Mark Allen, 13. Gone missing heading to a friend's house in Des Moines, Iowa on the 29th of March, 1986. The ages of the boys and the timings seem too similar. I used to think being found dead was rough. The idea that you'll never know is especially harder on their families. There's cases where people remain optimistic, but some relented to the idea that their loved ones aren't ever coming back. People are so fucked up to one another. Whoever did the Tylenol murders. For those who don't know, in 1982, there were a series of mysterious deaths. It was later discovered these deaths had been caused by the Tylenol, which had been swapped out for cyanide. This was one of the main reasons bottles nowadays have the seal that says "Do not buy if broken." Edit. The Tylenol murders are the reason bottles nowadays have seals to prevent tampering. 18 U.S.C. 1365 was enacted in 1983 as a result of the Tylenol murders, and if found guilty, you could face 5-20 years if someone got hurt and life if someone died. They've got a whole wave of protections for consumers because of this, and it's definitely one I'd like to find out who did it. What was the reason? On the 18th of May, 2021, my mom called me screaming. I was on my way to a DRS appointment, so I was already in the car. I couldn't understand her, but my first thought was that she had an intruder in her home, and he was killing her. Then I finally understood her saying matter and me hermano, meaning thief killed my brother. I thought surely there's been a mistake. But her voice said it all. It was true. I go to her house and she's losing it. Over time we find out that he'd been stabbed over 37 times. He'd been in his PJs and had tried to hide in his restroom by the signs of struggle and blood-stained doors. Police unfortunately have done nothing. His phone was nowhere to be found. My mom is a mess. Her best friend's life was taken from him. I wish he was here. The only thing we can do is find justice for him. I wish we knew who was behind it. That's horrible. I'm so sorry. Jason Landry, a Texas state student who disappeared. His car was found crashed and abandoned in Luling, TX. His clothes were found in the road. His wallet and phone were left in the vehicle, but no sign of Jason. I always thought that it was a case of man crashed his car, got delirious from brain trauma and died from his wounds. But the more I find out about the case, the less and less I believe in a straightforward answer. The disappearance of the Springfield 3. In the early morning hours of the 7th of June, 1992, these three women, Cheryl Levitt, 47, her daughter Susan Susie Streeter, 19, and Susie's friend Stacy McCall, 18, all vanished from Cheryl and Susie's home following a night of fun and partying. All their personal belongings, their cars, purses, and the little dog was left behind. The front porch light's glass globe was broken and there was a weird message of the answering machine that accidentally got deleted. Yeah, that was a weird one. It is complicated by there being something like half a dozen serial killers whose circumstantial evidence placed in the area at the time of the disappearances. This may not be a famous case, but in my country, there was this 16-year-old girl who was found in a vacant lot. She was raped and stabbed to death. Her face was skinned and an autopsy also revealed that her tongue, trachea, esophagus, parts of her neck, and her right ear were missing. There were alleged suspects, but it was never known who really did it to her. This happened in 2019. WTF. That's horrible. Where did this happen? Murder of Tristan Brubach. He was a 13-year-old boy from Germany, killed in a brutal attack during the day and mutilated. The monster of Florence murdered several couples in Italy during the 70s 80s. When I opened the thread I immediately wrote down Tristan. It still scares me. I'm just 5 years younger and my grandparents lived close to Hutch Railway Station when it happened. Also, some teenagers actually saw the murder and I remember the voice recording of that man who called the police and told them that he killed him, or the security camera recordings in the subway station where you can see Tristan with a man who's probably his murderer. The whole story is just shocking and I get insane goosebumps 25 years later. R.I.P. Tristan. Where is Shelley Miscavige? That's because everyone's too scared to take on the Scientologists. I think they've got way more power and influence than people realize, and that's been allowed to happen unfortunately. Jennifer Keese. She went missing in Florida, then authorities found her car had been abandoned and moved. They have a photo of the suspect moving her car, but his face is obscured by a fence. She's never been seen again. Brian Schaffer, the guy who walked into a bar in Ohio and was never seen leaving and was never heard from again. What did Scott Peterson do to Lacey Peterson? Jennifer Kess case has driven me nuts for years. That one piece of video footage with the guy's face being covered by the fence. Assuming it was a random construction worker who was working around her apartment building at that time. Back at the beginning of 2009, a young 17-year-old girl, https://en.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/murder_martyr_del_castillo didn't come back to her house after going out with her ex-BF to just chat. Until this day, there's no cause of death because there's no body and there's been 7 different versions given by the one considered guilty. The other people arrested involved minors and close friends of her. Thanks to one of the reporter involved since the beginning of the case and who still pursues the truth, along with a documentary published on Netflix, https://www.netflix.com/title/8130617 the case have been reopened. I really hope you are finally found and have justice served, martyr. This is the one that every young person from Spain would choose, but it's more or less clear. But Alcazar. 3 girls kidnapped and tortured. Nothing clear in that case. The University of Idaho murders. I am just reading about this for the first time. The idea of waking up in the same house where 4 of your friends were murdered and realizing you slept through it is one of the most horrifying things to me. It's all horrifying. I hope a suspect is found. Would be nice to get Epstein's list and put all those assholes in jail. This is top of my list as well. Epstein and Maxwell were terrible people. But supply requires demand. I want to know who was on the other end. The fact that most of the victims also won't give up names tells you how afraid they are to out these powerful people. Epstein's client list. We literally watched the most powerful people in the world almost get caught, en masse, being a bunch of pedophiles, rapists, and sex traffickers. And yet that list has not been made public? That's the biggest crime that no one ever talks about anymore. I feel like a lot of people have this crime present in their minds and talk about it occasionally, it's just that we don't know what to do about it. Like the Panama thing. But plenty of us are enraged by this. If someone found a way to do something about it. At a degree. So many questions and unsettling details about this case. Deleted. All of Ghislaine Maxwell. S. and Jeffrey Epstein's clients named, shamed and brought to justice. My aunt's murder. She was a grade school teacher and was run down by a car in front of her students. We all suspect her husband, but he never got convicted. This was going on 12 or 13 years ago now. The husband was arrested twice, but there was never enough to fully convict, so he got off free. He hit her with a car. She hit her head on a nearby tree. Car sped off. She died the next day in the hospital. Still technically an unsolved murder. Former co-worker of mine went missing years ago. They never found her. Everyone knows it was her boyfriend. And that she's dead. Her car was just left in a parking lot with a flat tire. Somehow, despite everyone in town knowing what basically happened, nothing ever came of it. I'd like to see justice for her and her family. John Bennett Ramsey. She was 6 years old when murdered in her own home at Christmas, 1996. Police incompetence, salacious speculation, long weirdly specific ransom note, and DNA evidence which was never tested. So many inconsistencies. The murders of Barry and Honey Sherman, pharmaceutical billionaires who were found dead in a suspicious way in their mansion. The Toronto police bungled the case and it seems like it might never be solved. It intrigues me because who did it? A lot of talk about it being a hit from a rival drug company, even their own son. My dad works in Toronto. He's convinced it's because they were involved in organized crime. Kyron Horman. I still think about it all the time. My sister is the same age as him and I remember driving past a giant missing poster every day off of 26 and feeling heartbroken every time I saw his little face. A girl from my hometown, who graduated high school with me, was groomed by police officers throughout her teen years. Almost 3 years ago, she was found dead in her apartment, pregnant with what she said was the cop's baby, although he denied it. He was the last person seen in her apartment. But her death, investigated by the very police force that groomed her, was ruled as a suicide. I don't believe that for a second. I think she was either murdered or it was a coerced suicide. I think everyone has wanted answers from the beginning. But as more and more from the investigation has come out, there have just been more and more questions to need answers for. Isn't there a podcast right now that's actively investigating this particular incident, and they're finding rampant corruption within the whole legal system in the county and even state? There is a famous Talbot case in India where a 16-year-old girl was killed along with a servant in a house, and there is no clue who did that. The case is still unsolved. There is a Bollywood film Tal was made on the incident. In Finland there was this case last winter where 3 teenagers tortured their friend to death extremely brutally. This act included breaking every rib bone, urinating on victim, steel pipe in anus and fire traces to testicles, and leaving victim naked in snow in Finnish winter night. Of course the boys are in jail now, but because they are minors and first timers they all serve about 4 years in jail and get new identities. Identities are even now not public, but internet knows. That is not justice, that is complete bullshit. I heard of a different case that I'm pretty sure was in Finland. A guy had a crush on a girl that she didn't reciprocate, so he ultimately murdered her boyfriend. Premeditated and very gruesome, but only got a few years for it. Finland doesn't seem to have very strict penalties for murder at all.